Oh, we're live. Hello. I was looking for tissues. Good evening. Yeah, it is evening. Good evening and Happy New Year. I usually do these Substack lives. I usually do them on a Friday, but I don't think I'm going to be around on Friday. So I thought, why not? Why not do one now on the first Monday of 2026? I thought I'll jump onto Substack Live for half an hour. If anyone wants to join me, you're more than welcome. Have a chat, tell you what I've been up to, which isn't much. And then, see how the next 30 minutes takes me and then say ta-da. So, as you can tell, it's cold. It's very British of me to start with the weather, but it is cold. I went out this morning because I always do my morning walk, although I haven't done anything that resembles proper exercise since, I don't know, 23rd of December. So I was out this morning I was up at 10 to 6. I was out the house by about 6:15. It was -2 degrees Celsius, but I went out and did my walk. And then I came back. I had a plan because obviously I have not sat at my desk, this desk. I have not sat at this desk since the 17th of December. I turned my out of office off. I thought, you know what, that's enough. That's enough. It's been a long year. I've done a lot. I've been through a lot. Let's just call it a day now. So 17th of December, I turned my out of office off, and I haven't sat at this desk since then, which is a long time. It's quite a long time. We're talking what, 3 weeks? Is that what we're talking? So it's a long time to be away from your work. So I haven't written anything. I haven't. Did I do any planning? I don't think I did any planning at all. I basically set up all my podcast stuff, had that all ready to go. So everything was scheduled because I really, really wanted to take a proper break over Christmas, because Christmas is just family and friends and hanging out and just chilling and just waiting to bring in 2026. So I didn't want to be doing any work. And before the 17th, I can't remember what day it was. It might have been the 17th of December. I recorded my last podcast interview for the year, and that was with Adele Parks. Adele Parks, multi-million selling, best-selling, award-winning author. I think she's amazing. And I had my last interview for my podcast, A Conversation with Nadine Matheson, on the 17th of December. We recorded that. And she says she always takes December off. She doesn't do anything. So no writing, no events, nothing. She takes December off. And I agree. I normally take August off. And I said, I think that comes. Happy New Year, Matt. Nice for you to join me. Yeah, I usually take August off. And I think that just goes back to me being a lawyer. So when I was working, going to court, when you're self-employed, you need to work, but you don't want to kill yourself. So I always used to take off August. So I try and not work in August. Worst case scenario, I might do the odd hearing here and there, but definitely wouldn't do any trials during August. So I've always still kept that, I was going to say MO, but I've still kept that pattern. So I still take August off. But now I think it's a good idea to take August and December off, because I think we get into this cycle of, and I think especially when I'm not going to say necessarily self-employed, but when you're doing other things. So when you're doing and I hate to call it doing your hustles, but if you're writing, doing your other projects, and you're still holding down a full-time job, or if you have managed to we'll call it your hustle, make your hustle become your full-time job, I think you get into this mindset that you need to be working every single hour that God sends, and that you shouldn't be taking any breaks. Because if you're not working, that means you're not making money. And it's a bad habit to get into. So we need to be kinder to ourselves and gentle to ourselves and give ourselves breaks. So I think from now on, as well as taking August off, I'll also take December off. So I came back to my desk today, and Did I get any writing done? Let me tell you how many words. I had to go into Scrivener, which is behind me, to tell you how many words I wrote. 16. I wrote 16 words today, but that's fine. That is absolutely fine. I had to respond to all those emails that I'd been sent over the past 3 weeks. And then they'll still do, yeah, maths hasn't worked since March 98. Oh my God, Matt, that's when I graduated from university. I graduated in 1990. Was it not? No, it wasn't 98. No, it was. I graduated in 1998. Seems like yesterday. So yeah, it was weird coming back to work today. And as I said, didn't get much writing done. That was fine. I had loads of emails to get through and just generally just, see where the lay of the land was or is when I return back to work. But I think I don't set resolutions. I don't like calling them resolutions. I think you set resolutions, you kind of set yourself up for failure because it's kind of a pressure to be like, I need to get all this done. I need to achieve all these resolutions. So I always have plans. So I'll make a plan of like things I want to achieve for this coming year, whether that's personal achievements or professional achievement. I haven't written them all down yet, but they're all in my head, but I do write them down. And I don't put pressure on myself to meet all of them. I think sometimes that can be too much. You get to like March and you're like, oh my God, I broke my resolution and it's game over. No, just make a plan. And plans can be flexible. I'm all about flexibility. So my first plan is to finish this book because I don't really have a choice with that one because I have a deadline, which I think is I keep saying I think it's end of March. I hope it's end of March. So I've got 3 months to finish off book 5, which I'm writing. And I was about, before I broke up for Christmas, I was about 48,000 words in. So really, really, if you think of a novel as being between 80 to 100,000 words, and I'm contracted to deliver like 100,000 words. So I'm halfway there. So it's not too bad. Oh, Matt said, I just wanted to drop in and thank you for your wonderful books. Oh, you are so welcome. I especially liked Sisters. Have a great, great year. Yeah, and finish that book. Yes, thank you, Matt. I will finish that book. But I'm so glad. I'm glad that you enjoyed my books and enjoyed the Sisters. Oh God, the Sisters. That was the first book I self-published that book. So it's the first novel. It wasn't the first novel I wrote, if I'm honest. It wasn't the first novel that I wrote. Because I say all writers have a book somewhere in their drawers, on their desktops, that they wrote and will never see the light of day. And it's like that's like your internship. It's your practice book. It's helping you get into, I suppose, the rhythm of writing. And you're learning your habits, what works and what doesn't work. And if you do choose to go back and look at that book, and then you look at what you've written now, you will see how far you've come. So The Sisters wasn't my first book that I wrote. My very first book that I wrote was called, Tell Me Something Good. And it was a family drama, contemporary fiction. And I wrote it early 2000s. I was working for the BBC. I used to write it during my lunch breaks. When I got home, I thought that when I wrote this book and when I finished this book, I thought absolutely, absolutely, publishers, agents, they're going to be screaming for it and it's going to be a bestseller. And then my life is just going to be one of, I don't know, riches and wonder and would just be fantastic. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who had that dream of their very, very first book that they wrote. And it took me ages to finish this book because in between working at the BBC, after that, I trained. Did I train to become a solicitor then? When did I do my training contract? I can't remember. I can't remember. Such a long time ago. Might have been part-time at law school. Then I did my training contract. Then I became a solicitor. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. It took me ages to finish this book. And when I wrote this book, finished it, the first thing I did was send it out to publishers. No, send it to agents. Send it to agents first. Because I thought, of course, an agent's going to snap me up. Like, who wouldn't? This book is fantastic. All my friends have read the first few chapters and said they like it. Of course, they're going to snap it up. I sent it to agents, and inevitable. I didn't even get, we want the full manuscript. It was just, thanks. No, it was worse than that. It wasn't even just thanks, but no thanks. But this is the early noughties. So when you sent off the manuscript, it wasn't email submissions. You had to send off the physical. So first 3 chapters, synopsis and a covering letter. Thank God I was working for, after I left the law firm, after I left the BBC, I was working for a city law firm. And yeah, I used the post room. It costs a lot of money to get stamps. And so I send out the manuscript, send out my submission, and you would know it was a rejection without even opening the letter that came back, because basically they sent your same submission package back to you. Because most of the times they always ask for a stamped addressed envelope or a self-addressed envelope. So you knew it was a rejection because your same manuscript came back on your doormat. But I carried on. Every time someone said no, fine, I'll just send it out again, until it got to a point where I just thought, okay, push that to the side, and I have to concentrate on my career. But looking back, when I think back to that book, which was the book that showed me that I could actually finish a book. It's a mental battle, I think, writing. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to write 80 to 100,000 words? How am I going to get this book done? So writing that book, as I call it, my internship, my practice, my training contract, it showed me that I could finish a book. Was it any good? Well, I say that, but I remember I sent it to an independent publisher, and they were called Black Amber Publishers. And I don't know what happened to them. And the editor, she wrote me a very nice letter back, and she said, you write something along the lines of like, you write really well, but we won't be taking it on, won't be asking for the full manuscript, but keep going. And I held on to that letter for so long. I think it's somewhere in my loft. But I held on to that letter for so long because even though it was a rejection, there was encouragement within the rejection. And sometimes all you need is one person, just one person, to tell you that you're good and to carry on and not to give up hope. It just takes one person. So out of the sea of rejections, because there was a sea of rejections, which me being stubborn, I ignored, and I've probably took that as a challenge. But out of the sea of the submissions, it wasn't a flat out yes. It was definitely a no, but it wasn't a yes, but it was a definite keep going. And I held on to that. So when I look back now, all these years later, because we're in 2026 now, and I was at the BBC, I think 2002. So we're talking like, when we thinking back 24 years later, my advice to writers always, when I'm asked, what would you advise new writers? My advice is never, 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 never send out your first draft of your manuscript. Your first draft of your manuscript is just for you. It is just for you. It's just for you to get into the story, to get to know your characters, to know your setting, to work out your plot. That's what your first draft is for. That very first book that you write may not be the book that gets you the agent, and it may not be the book that gets you the publishing deal. It might be your second, third, or fourth, or fifth book. That's the one that's going to get you the publishing deal or the agent. I mean, if it happens, it happens, and happy days. But, don't be despondent if it doesn't happen on the first go. Because when I think back to all them years ago, like 20 years ago, when I think back, the manuscript I sent out, the submission package I sent out, that was just the first draft, which I had no business sending out to anybody. So looking back, I'm not surprised it happened. But also looking back, I'm glad it did, because everyone gets rejected in this game. In this publishing game, everyone suffers rejection. And you can get rejected at various stages through your career. You can get rejected at the very beginning when you're looking for agents, looking for editors. That's normally the first, I'll say, hurdle of rejection that most writers meet. The second hurdle could be when you've signed with an agent and your book is then sent out on submission to editors and there's no one's biting. No publishers want it. I know some writers who have been on submission for 2 years with one book. So that's the second stage of rejection. That's when rejection can hit you again. And then rejection can hit you again after you've got the publishing deal. So you may have got the publishing deal, you've got your 1 book, 2 book, 3 book deal, you've written the 3 books, and then it's time for your agent and your publishers to talk about, is there going to be another contract so you can write more books? And publishers say no. Computer says no. Yeah, publishers say no, they don't want any more. So rejection can hit you then, even after you are an established writer. And it's happened to writers I know. It's not unusual, and it's hard not to get despondent when that happens. But, in a blunt way, it's a fact of publishing life and a fact of writing life. So there's that. So now, let's see, so it's 2026. My 4th book in my Inspector Angelica Henley series is out this year. I can finally say it's out this year, 12th of February, 2026, in the UK, and 10th of March, 2026, in the US, in Canada. This is the proof version. I've seen the final cover. My editor sent that to me before. Did you send it to me before Christmas or last week? I can't remember. But I've seen the final cover. Looks amazing. Green's my favourite colour, so I'm very happy that it's green font. But it's called a shadow cover. And it's really weird because I said 2026, my 4th book comes out. I signed with my agent 7 years ago. Oh, bloody hell. 7 years ago. Is that right? 2019? Yeah, 7 years ago I signed with my agent, which is crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But 7 years ago I signed with my agent. And in 2021, my debut crime fiction books, even though I was self-published before with my book, The Sisters, because that was contemporary fiction, this was, not this one, The Jigsaw Man, which I'll show you. Oh, I was going to show you. I will show you. Hold on. So, The Jigsaw Man was my debut as a crime fiction author. So that came out 2021. And then The Binding Room came out. I had a gap. So I think The Binding Room came out 2022. Yeah, Binding Room came out 2022. And then, I think it wasn't a gap. I think it probably is still a book a year. No. I'm trying to think. No, I had a gap. I had a gap between The Binding Room and The Cure List, because The Cure List hardback came out May 2024. And then it came out in paperback last year. This time last year, it came out in paperback. So I'm generally doing 1 book a year. I am writing 1 book a year, but there was a gap because of the publishing dates. They changed publishing dates, which isn't unusual. And then I've got the 4th book in the series, The Cure List. Not The Cure List, The Shadow Carver. What am I talking about? The Shadow Carver. I'm very proud of this book. This book was a lot of work. Someone asked me, and this is the reason why I came on Substack to talk about it. Someone asked me on Substack, the difference between writing book 1 and book 5, because this is coming out next month and I'm currently writing my next book, and there's no difference in the sense that it doesn't get easier. It does not get easier. You would think that the more books you write, it would get easier, but it doesn't. Every time you sit down at that computer and you open up a fresh document, and you start with however you start, prologue or chapter 1. Even though I do plan, if you've listened to these Substack lives before or seen me anywhere before, I'm a planner, so I have my plans. Even though I have my plan, you sit down to write, and whether it's your 1st book, 3rd book, 5th book, 18th book, it's still hard. There are still challenges. Sometimes you can't get the plot to work. Sometimes you can't get the dialogue to work. Sometimes you ask yourself, am I writing this in the right point of view? Is it the right voice? Like all the questions you asked yourself in book 1, those questions don't disappear in book 5. The only thing that I'm not even saying it's easier, but maybe it is easier. The only thing that's easier is that I can kind of preempt what my editor will say when it comes down to doing my edits. And I feel probably a bit more comfortable with writing that first draft, but I know that first draft doesn't have to be perfect. So I would say practically wise, practically, yeah. If I'm thinking pragmatically, doing the actual writing, that doesn't get easier. I don't think there's any differences. And for me, what is difficult, well, not difficult, what is challenging is that I usually write a series. So if I'm writing something that's not in a series, it's a different challenge because now I have to try to get to know these different characters, these new characters, this new plot, this new storyline, this new location. So that's the challenge. This new point of view that I'm probably using. But other than that, yeah, it doesn't get easier. But I do still love it. And the thing is, I don't think you want it to get easier. I think it should still be a challenge. I think that no matter what book you're writing, you still want to be pushed. And if you can push yourself by the type of story that you're writing, then that can only be a good thing. I think if it gets easier, maybe you might get a little bit lackadaisical about it. So no, it doesn't get easier. There's no difference. But I'll let you know. Okay, so that was it. I just thought I'd come on briefly to say hi. Happy New Year. Thank you to everyone who joined me so far. Hopefully next week I will return with the regular Friday lunchtime verdict, which is something I'm going to keep doing every Friday around 2:00, 2:00, 2:30 every Friday. So that'll be my regular live. This was just a jumping on and just saying hi. So I hope you all had a lovely Christmas break. Have a wonderful, wonderful New Year. And be kind to yourselves and be gentle. Don't put any pressure on yourselves, Do everything in your own time. All right, that's all. Bye.